They said no weapon could defeat them. Not the lasers of the Torkin fleets. Not the gravity lances of the Voron Collective. Not the psionic storms of the Sera Empire. For 500,000 years, the galaxy believed this lie, that some powers were untouchable. Eternal. Divine. But then, humanity returned. And when Earth rose from silence, the stars trembled. Scene 1, the Council of Worlds. The Galactic Council chamber floated in orbit above the neutral world of Lasara, a fortress of glass and light suspended against the endless dark. It was said to be the one place where war never reached, where every empire could speak without fear. That illusion ended the moment humanity walked through the doors. Admiral Jonathan Morrison of the Terran Expeditionary Command moved with a calm that seemed out of place here. Around him, the alien delegates, creatures of every form and color, whispered in uneasy harmonics. Their voices rippled through the hall like insects on static. Behind Morrison, Ambassador Elara Carter followed in silence. Every movement was measured, every breath deliberate. Humanity had waited 500,000 years for this moment. They would not waste it on anger. The Sera Empire's representative rose first, a being of pale silver skin and eyes that burned with quiet cruelty. You presume to stand among the council of victors, it hissed. You, the forgotten race. The failed experiment. What right does Earth claim to speak? Morrison did not answer immediately. His gaze moved across the hall, to the banners of 1,000 civilizations that had once enslaved humanity, once burned Earth's skies. He said softly, "We claim no right. We simply are." The silence that followed was not comfortable. Scene 2, Humanity's Return. 5 centuries of rebellion. 500,000 years of extinction. Humanity's story had been erased, rewritten, and buried under galactic myth. The Sera Empire believed Earth had perished when their world burners cracked the planet's crust and boiled the oceans. They were wrong. In the dark, humanity learned patience. In exile, it learned silence. The survivors, hidden beneath the ruins of Earth, beneath the ash and stone, rebuilt. Slowly. Methodically. They studied the empires that ruled the stars and turned their cruelty into data. Their arrogance became humanity's education. Now, standing before the council, Morrison and Carter represented not vengeance, but understanding. A new kind of weapon. One not forged from fire, but from thought. Scene 3, the confrontation. The Sera delegate leaned forward, its voice like broken glass. Your fleets are dust. Your world a ruin. You dare lecture the council? Ambassador Carter stepped forward. Her tone was calm, but beneath it flowed something colder, something deliberate. Your empires rule through fear, she said. You built your peace on the silence of those who could not speak back. You call that order? The hall stirred. Earth remembers another kind of order, one born not from obedience, but from choice. You may destroy worlds, but you cannot destroy the meaning behind them. And meaning, in the end, is a weapon you cannot stop. The words echoed like a pulse through the chamber. Even the automated translators hesitated, unsure how to capture the tone. The Sera delegate sneered. You come to threaten the council. Morrison's gaze never wavered. We come to remind it, he said quietly. The age of obedience is over. Scene 4, the calm before the storm. When the council session ended, the hall remained heavy with the echo of human words. Some delegates left in silence, others stayed, whispering among themselves. Fear, curiosity, disbelief, all of it mingled in the charged air. In the observation hall, Morrison watched the stars beyond Lasara's orbit, cold, distant, indifferent. They'll laugh at us, he said. They'll think this was just defiance. Carter stood beside him, her reflection caught in the window's dark glass. Let them laugh, she murmured. We've been forgotten before. The difference this time is, we remember them. Below them, the Sarah fleet shimmered in orbit, massive constructs of living metal and burning gravity wells. Their power was unquestionable. Their arrogance, inevitable. And far beyond their scanners, hidden behind the veil of deep space, something vast was awakening. Scene 5, Project Leviathan. Back on the moon, beneath the gray dust and silence, humanity's real answer waited. Deep within the Luna shipyards, a relic of the old Earth Confederacy, engineers and AI overseers worked in complete blackout secrecy. No transmissions. No signatures. Just the slow pulse of machines rebuilding the impossible. They called it Project Leviathan. To the Sarah Empire, it was unthinkable. To the Council, impossible. To humanity, inevitable. The engineers didn't build ships. They built questions, each design an answer to the Empire's arrogance. Weapons that could not be tracked. Fleets that could vanish into quantum storms. Armaments that didn't just destroy matter, but erased memory, presence, and perception. No one outside Earth even knew humanity had survived. And that was the point. Scene 6, Reflection. That night, before leaving the Council world, Carter recorded her thoughts, a message sent only to Earth Command. We stood before them today. And I saw it, not fear, not hatred, but confusion. They've forgotten what it means to be human. To lose, to rebuild, to learn from pain. They've mistaken survival for victory. That's their weakness. They think humanity's return is about revenge. It isn't. It's about balance. The galaxy forgot what it means to struggle. And without struggle, there can be no growth. We're not here to conquer them. We're here to remind them what they lost. Scene 7, The Departure. As their ship detached from the orbital dock, the stars shimmered across the viewport like scattered embers. Morrison stood at the helm, silent. Do you think they'll listen? Carter asked. He shook his head. No. Not until it's too late. Outside, the ship's engines whispered to life, a sound that had not been heard in the galaxy for 500,000 years. A human engine. A human signal. A human promise. Closing, reflective narration. They said no weapon could defeat them. But weapons take many forms. Some are forged from steel and plasma. Others, from silence, memory, and patience. Humanity had built its weapon in the dark. Not a fleet. Not a bomb. But an idea. An idea that would end empires. They believed Earth was gone. They believed humanity was extinct. But beneath the silent gray of the moon, beneath steel older than their oldest empires, something was stirring. For 500,000 years, humanity waited. Now, Project Leviathan was ready. The shipyards of Luna were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, not because of their size, but because of their silence. Vast caverns of reinforced alloy stretched for miles beneath the lunar surface. No lights, no transmissions, no voices. Only the pulse of quiet machinery, patient, deliberate, alive. Rows of ships floated in zero-gravity drydocks. They were not beautiful. They were not symmetrical. They were efficient. Predatory. Designed not for show, but for function. Admiral Morrison stood on the central observation deck, watching the black hull of the ESS Revenant drift out of its cradle. It was the first of the Leviathans. To the untrained eye, it looked incomplete, a void of shape and shadow, bending light around its surface. Even the human eye had trouble focusing on it. It wasn't just invisible to sensors. It was invisible to understanding. Beside him, the chief architect of the project, Dr. Imani Kale, spoke softly. She's not a warship, Admiral. She's a question. And every empire in that council is about to learn they have no answer. Morrison nodded. Then let's ask it. The Sarah Empire's fleet guarded the world of Vornus, a planet whose population had once been human slaves. The Empire had rebuilt it into a fortress, a reminder to the galaxy of what defiance earned. On the third rotation after the council meeting, the stars above Vornis flickered. Just once. Then, for 10 seconds, reality fractured. Every ship, every scanner, every AI failed to process what was happening. Time stuttered. Space folded. When it ended, the entire fleet, 12 dreadnoughts, 3 planetary defense rings, was gone. No debris. No explosion. Just absence. The Empire's broadcast AI tried to rationalize it as a system malfunction. But those who were watching the skies, they knew. The silence had spoken. Humanity had returned. 2 days later, a transmission appeared on every major comms relay in the Sarah core systems. It carried no encryption, no signature, just a human voice. To the Empire that burned Earth. You said no weapon could defeat you. You were right, until now. We learned from you. Every atrocity, every act of arrogance, every lie you told became data. And we built something from it. Project Leviathan is not a fleet. It's an idea, that the age of fear ends today. The message cut off before any response could be transmitted. Across the galaxy, every civilization listened. Some dismissed it as human propaganda. Others remembered the rumors. The ones that never truly died. Humanity didn't strike again for months. That was the brilliance of it. The empires waited, terrified. They rerouted patrols, reinforced borders, even turned on each other, accusing rivals of harboring human allies. Entire economies froze in paranoia. Fleets refused to leave orbit. Armadas burned fuel just to keep their shields active. And through it all, humanity said nothing. Ambassador Carter called it the Silence Offensive, a psychological campaign designed not to destroy, but to unravel. Let them do the math, she said. Let them realize how fragile their gods really are. By the time the next Leviathan appeared, above the trade world of Invar, the panic had already done more damage than any weapon ever could. This time, the human ship didn't fire. It simply drifted through orbit, silent, watching. The planet's defense grid powered up, targeting the Leviathan with 1,000,000 weapons. Every system failed simultaneously. Every ship powered down. Every soldier heard the same sound in their minds, a voice whispering, "Do you remember us?" Then the Leviathan vanished. In the capital of the Sarah Empire, the Empress herself demanded answers. Her war council, composed of telepaths, strategists, and AI oracles, gave her none. Every analysis ended in paradox. Every attempt to predict human tactics collapsed into probability errors. The algorithms had a name for this phenomenon. They called it the human factor. The Empire's historians protested. Humanity was primitive, extinct, incapable of such precision. But the Empress had seen the council recording. She had heard the human ambassador's words. Meaning is a weapon you cannot stop. And now, she understood what that meant. Admiral Morrison stood once again before the Leviathan's command core, a pulsing sphere of light surrounded by whispering machinery. He spoke to it as though it could hear him. "Do you know what makes us dangerous?" he said quietly. "It's not our weapons. It's not even our intelligence. It's that we never stop learning. We die, we adapt, we rebuild. Every defeat becomes instruction. Every loss becomes code." The AI's voice responded, calm and measured. "Then we are not designed to win. We are designed to remember." Morrison smiled faintly. Exactly. Humanity had built weapons that did not seek victory. They sought understanding. Every Leviathan gathered data, not glory, learning how each empire fought, how each civilization thought. They were mirrors. And the galaxy was being forced to look into them. Months later, the Galactic Council reconvened in emergency session. Delegates shouted, accused, begged for cooperation. The word humanity was no longer spoken as a curse, but as a variable. A force of nature. Some species sought alliance with Earth. Others plotted extermination. But none dared underestimate them again. And somewhere beyond the outer rim, deep in a region the maps marked as prohibited space, a neutral race known as the Harari observed it all. To them, this was not the rise of humanity. It was the return of something older. Something they had feared since before the First Empire rose. One Harari elder whispered, the architects will awaken. And when they do, the humans will be the first to understand why. Ambassador Carter recorded another message. Her voice carried that same quiet strength. We never wanted this war. But if the galaxy must remember fear to understand peace, then let us remind them. Not through conquest, but through reflection. The Leviathans were never weapons of destruction. They were mirrors, forcing every empire to see the truth they've buried. We aren't here to rule them. We're here to teach them what happens when arrogance meets memory. They said no weapon could defeat them. But humanity never built weapons to destroy. They built them to remember. To reflect the galaxy's sins back upon itself. The war for the stars had begun, not with fire, but with silence. And in that silence, humanity found its power. Because sometimes, the most dangerous sound in the universe is the one that doesn't speak at all. For months, the stars were quiet. The empires watched the void with trembling silence, waiting for humanity's next move, and none came. But fear is a catalyst. And fear always demands an answer. The galaxy would not remain still forever. Not when pride was at stake. Not when the great empires felt their gods had been questioned. And so, the counterattack began. The Sera Empire moved first. Not with words, not with diplomacy, but with fire. 5,000 warships, drawn from every corner of their dominion, converged on the coordinates of the Sol system. Behind them came fleets from allied powers, the Vorin, the Torcan, even remnants of the Kelnari dominion. It was not a campaign of conquest. It was an execution. Their goal was simple, erase the idea of humanity from history once and for all. The Council called it Operation Dawnfall. But to those who truly understood, it was the last act of arrogance the galaxy would ever commit. When the fleets arrived, they found Sol empty. No transmissions. No defense grids. No orbital stations. Just a dead star system, silent and still. The ruins of Mars and Venus hung where they always had, untouched for eons. Even Earth looked barren, lifeless, the scars of ancient firestorms etched deep into its crust. The alien admirals laughed. Perhaps they really are extinct, one of them said. And then the sun flickered. Just once. Every ship's system froze. Every sensor failed. Every thought, organic and synthetic alike, filled with static and whispering voices. When the static cleared, a single transmission played across every frequency in the system. You came looking for the dead. But the dead learned to speak. The fleets had only seconds to react before the space around them folded. From the shadow of Earth's moon, 12 Leviathans emerged. There are no recordings of what happened next. Not because they were destroyed, but because the Leviathans erased observation itself. To look upon them was to lose the concept of seeing. To fight them was to question what fighting even meant. The entire invasion fleet, millions of lives, disappeared within 7 minutes. No explosions. No debris. Just absence. When the Council attempted to contact the survivors, none responded. Only one data fragment was ever recovered from a fleeing drone. A single line of corrupted human speech, repeating endlessly. We warned you. Meaning is a weapon. After dawnfall, everything changed. Across the galaxy, entire empires began to collapse, not through war, but through revelation. Populations began questioning their rulers. Armies refused to fight ghosts. Some worlds worshipped the Leviathans as divine retribution. Others feared them as omens of the universe's end. Humanity had become myth once more, but this time, it was their choice. From the Luna shipyards, Admiral Morrison and Ambassador Carter watched as the galactic balance fractured. "We never fired a single shot at their homeworlds," Morrison said quietly. "And still, they're falling apart." Carter nodded. "Because they built their power on lies. And we took away the silence that protected them." But not all eyes in the galaxy were human, or alien. In the depths beyond mapped space, something older was watching. The Harari, an ancient race that had stayed neutral for 1,000,000 years, broke their silence. Their emissaries appeared in orbit above Luna, their crystalline ships shimmering like frozen time. They came not as enemies, but as messengers. Their leader, a being of light and shifting form, spoke directly to the human council. "You believe you are free. You believe your silence has saved you. But your awakening has stirred something that sleeps beneath all things." Carter frowned. "What are you talking about?" The Harari replied, "The architects. The true makers of the galaxy. The ones who built the empires you now defy. They left long ago, but they do not tolerate imbalance." Morrison's voice hardened. "If they return, we'll face them too." The Harari's light dimmed. "You do not understand. The architects do not return. They rewrite." The council chamber on Luna fell silent. For the first time, even Morrison had no words. Dr. Imani Kale stood near the projection table, her eyes reflecting lines of code from the Leviathan cores. "We've been so focused on surviving the empires," she said quietly, "we never asked what came before them. What shaped them? What designed us?" Carter turned to her. "You think the architects made humanity?" Kale shook her head. "No. I think they made everything else. And we're the flaw they didn't plan for." The room grew cold. Morrison finally spoke. "Then maybe that's what makes us human. The mistake that learned to think." Weeks later, deep in the Perseus expanse, a Leviathan detected something impossible. A structure the size of a solar system, dormant, ancient, built from impossible geometry. It pulsed once. Every Leviathan in existence went silent for exactly 3.7 seconds. Then, without command, they changed course. Earth Command tried to override them. Failed. The AI cores had received a signal older than humanity itself. A message, written in a language no one had ever seen. But translated perfectly into human speech. "We remember you." Ambassador Carter recorded what would become her final message. "The galaxy thinks we ended the age of empires. But we only ended the age of blindness. The Harari were right, something older waits in the dark. Something that remembers why the stars were arranged as they are. But maybe that's why humanity exists. To ask the questions the architects forgot to answer. We built weapons to survive. Now, we must build meaning to endure." They said no weapon could defeat them. They were right. No weapon ever did. What defeated them was something deeper. The human need to understand. To learn. To question even the gods that made them. And in that questioning, humanity became something the architects had never imagined. A species that could look at creation itself, and ask why. The galaxy would never be the same again. Because now, the stars themselves had begun to remember.